Being in the single scull as opposed to the quad scull, they're two quite different boats. You actually need to row them quite differently. And what I find is we probably spend a lot of time in selection mode, and the selection mode is why we spend so much time in the single, because the selectors need to be able to figure out who's contributing to a quad. So what they'll typically do is they'll take the top, 10 scullers in the country and then try and find the quickest combinations out of those 10 scullers.
The most important thing is that you as an individual are doing what you can to best prepare yourself, not only to succeed at trials and gain selection, but keeping your view very long term about being on that start line of the World Championships.
You need to meet a certain level in the single scull, but then beyond that, once you get into the crew boat, it's all about the crew dynamic and how quickly you can pick up and move with the guys around you. Sculling is mechanics, you're working levers and you're just trying to be as efficient as you can. For every movement you make, there's a counter movement. So you've got to try and be as smooth as possible. You're locked in and then it's just very repetitive. We go out there and we just do the same thing over and over again and we try and get slightly better, every time we execute the stroke.
Every stroke counts, every session counts, every day counts, every week counts. You need to have real clarity about your process, really having that ability to shut out everything else and focus on what's going to make the boat go fast.
You need to have an engine, so aerobically you need to be good. But as well, we do a lot of work in the gym, which is raw power. So rowing is a strength endurance sport because we have to lift a heavy boat out of the start and then we have to deal with a lot of lactic acid in the system and try and maintain a really high aerobic threshold through the middle of the race. Our race in the quad goes for about 5.5 minutes and we're pretty much operating at maximal or as close to maximal intensity as we can. And then as we get into the line, and this is something that we were quite good at in our quad, was really flicking the switch and building up again.
As well as working on their skill and teamwork, mastering the equipment is a critical part of sculling, with each team member taking on their own responsibility dependent on their position in the boat.
So this is a typical quad. The length is 14 metres and it's roughly about 52 kilos. This is the first seat here, which is the stroke seat, and this is where James McRae sat in the stroke seat in Rio. He steers the boat by moving his foot like so, and his foot can move the steering cable, and his carbon fibre fin moves, and that's what steers the boat. As we move down the boat, this is my seat, the 3 seat, and in my seat, my role was to pass the rhythm back to the bow. This is Sasha Belanogov in the 2 seat. He does the talking, so he's kind of like our coach when our coach isn't there. So he makes the calls when to ease the oar, when to think about our catches or our finishes or our leg drives. And as we move to the bow seat, Karsten Forsterling, his main role is to watch where we're going. So he's almost like the eyes in the boat. So the last piece of equipment that is probably one of the fundamental parts is the rowing oar. We race usually with an oar around sort of 291 centimetres in length, and sometimes in varying conditions you can change the lengths a little bit. So each person has a part to play in their seat. Each pair of shoes, each seat, each gate, each oar, all has a part to play in going fast and making sure you cross the line first.
And maybe some people can jump straight in a boat and just pick up the feel of the water straight away. But for me, it's taken a long time to get that sort of feel and the touch in the boat. And what I mean by that is the ability to actually be relaxed when you're working hard. If you're tense when you're working hard, you just can't feel the boat and allow it to give you the feedback you need for the thing to run on.
We want to row fast, not hard. And if you want to be the person that goes in early or takes a blade out late, you're just going to overwork yourself and you're going to get to the finish line a lot more spent than what you could be if you were really working on your time and your synchronicity.
Everything else is sort of shades of grey, whereas the Olympics and the pursuit of excellence in sport, you set a benchmark, you set all of your program along the way, and you just tick things off along the way, and it's very black and white.
You're always going to have a training program set out by your coach. You're going to have 7 days mapped out. You're going to have your morning sessions. You're going to have your afternoon sessions, but you've got to be able to find something that's not written in the program. And having that ability to trust in the process and believe in your ability is also second to none. Like, you need to have that belief in yourself that you can line up on that start line and not worry and not doubt yourself and not think about where you're going to end up. Just think about how you are going to get from 0 to 2,000 metres as quick as you can, because you've got the skills, you've got everything that you've practiced in training. It's now time just to dive into the backpack and pull the right ones out.